Rob Smith back, and after a little hiatus over the Christmas and New Year, I'm back with the King of London, Nathaniel Wood. Nathaniel, how are we doing, mate?
I'm very well, thank you, mate. Thanks for having me on, and yeah, I'm doing good. I'm blessed.
And UFC's back. We just had a great card over the weekend. That's the first thing I want to kind of touch on is we had four UK fighters in the card. We had Modestas Bukauskas, Atiba Gautier, Arnold Allen, and of course Paddy Pimblett in the main event. I just wanted to ask you about what you thought of their performances. I know results wise it didn't really go our way, which is unfortunate. I think we got one out of four. Which,
Yeah.
but I wanted what you mainly thought about Paddy's performance. No, Arnold's a big one because he's in your division. That could be a fight down the line. What did you make of the UK guys' performances over the weekend?
I think it just shows that we can handle ourselves with the best in the world because they were no easy fights. Do you see what I'm saying? So, for example, let's talk Paddy Pimblett versus Justin Gaethje for the UFC interim belt. That is the top of the top, the furthest you're going to get until obviously you become the champ. Arguably, Justin Gaethje is the champ because Ilia Topuria is, obviously not fighting at the moment. Arnold Allen, Jean Silva, mate, two of the best fighters on the planet. So I think when you get to those sort of levels, it's a flip of a coin. It really is. And if the MMA gods are on your side, you might get the nod. Like my last fight, it was very, very, very close. People were saying I robbed the guy. I'm like, come on, man, it was a close fight. I'm lucky and I'm blessed that I got the judge's decision. They gave me the nod that time. I've had it in the past when I didn't get the nod. So yeah, I think it just shows that the UK fighters can handle themselves against anyone in the world.
And talk about Arnold because Arnold's now coming off a loss, and I'm assuming now he'll probably go down a little bit in the rankings. And I know there's rumors and things about you having a fight in London, and I'm assuming Arnold is someone who you'd like to fight. I know there's probably a bit of mutual respect there between the two of you, both former Cage Warriors guys, both from the UK. But looking at the style matchup, that matchup between yourself and him in the future, that's potential fireworks right there. Like no one would say no to that. Is he someone who you'd like to fight in the future?
No, mate, me and Arnold are cool. So I would want to avoid him at all costs until it was, at shot for number one. I like the guy. Me personally, I don't really want to fight people I like. Don't get me wrong, I can, but it would have to be for the right fight. If it didn't make sense and it was just kind of like I'll just put the two together, I'd rather someone else. So yeah, I don't know if maybe he'll move up to lightweight now. I know Arnold personally, and I know that he's a very, very big featherweight. So I think he can handle himself at 155. It'll be interesting to see if he goes up.
And you're someone who's obviously you've seen the betterment of moving up a weight class. You never looked better since you moved to featherweight. You've been on such a good run. Only that one loss, and that's something to ask you about is because you've gone in the past and said that you really want to avenge that loss to Naimov because there was a lot of
Mm.
controversy. There was a bit of an asterisk on that one loss, and I've seen you say you really want that fight back. Is that still the case? He's still someone you'd like to fight in the future?
To be honest, I did, but I'm so now just like even now I feel like I've passed him. Um, so no, if I'm honest, I don't think about him anymore.
And what's camp been like for you since moving up to featherweight? Because I can imagine I've seen people on at the bad ends of weight cuts, and you see how much it can really drain, and you can see people's moods changing so much in that regard. So what's life been like for you since you moved up? I know it's only £10, which in the long run it might not seem like that much, but to a fighter and cutting weight, £10 is a hell of a lot. So what's that been like for you since moving up?
Put it this way, I'm healthy now. I'm actually able to train and replenish and fuel myself like an athlete's supposed to. I know that the card the other night, man, there was some abysmal weight cuts. Everyone looked fucked. No one looked good. No one looked healthy. And listen, you can make weight once, twice, but I mean, how many times are you willing to just destroy your body because it's not healthy? It's not that we're just going on a little bit of a diet and we're just losing a bit of weight. No, we're killing ourselves to make weight. Literally, guy. I don't know how he is now, but guy fainted coming off the scales. I'm like, man, you got to fight the next day. You got to get punched in the head. Like, I don't know why the guys are still doing it. I said from the moment I had a featherweight bout, which was in 2016, I think, I said to my coaches, I want to go featherweight. I don't care about the weight advantage anymore. Unfortunately, all my opportunities were coming at bantamweight. I had the Cage Warriors title, etc. It was all at bantamweight. Um, but I believe that you should believe in your skill set to be able to fight at a weight above. My opponents, they have about 3 to 4 kilos on me. But if I can't handle that with my skill set, then they're better than me. Do you see what I'm saying? I shouldn't be sitting there blaming a couple of kilos. So, I get it. I understand why people cut weight, but I think people were putting too much effort and focus on the weight cuts instead of just bettering themselves as an athlete. And I think moving up a weight has meant that I have a speed advantage over everyone. So, yes, I lose out on the weight advantage, but I now have a speed advantage. Whereas at bantamweight, we're all the same anyway. We all cut the same amount of weight. So, yeah, I didn't really see the point in doing it anymore. It wasn't enjoyable, and I'm quite happy to move up, be healthy, and enjoy my life, man. Do you know what I mean? I'm actually able to have a decent fight camp, take my wife and my kids to Nando's, and be able to fuel myself how I should. And yeah, I'm surprised that no one else has kind of cottoned on and doing the same thing.
Before I go on my next question, I've got to ask, what is your Nando's order?
Half a chicken medium, peri chips, and if I'm being naughty, garlic bread. But if it's a healthy Nando's, half chicken, broccoli, and rice.
Oh, yeah, that's nice. Yeah, I like the order. And so
And
back
then
back
I don't know if you've had them, but they do the chicken. Um, oh, oh no, what's chorizo? Chicken chorizo. It's a new thing. I don't know if they're doing it in all of the Nando's. Oh,
I, see, I haven't been in Nando's. See, now I'm Nando's. You've said all this. I'm well in Nando's. I haven't been in so long. I'm gonna have to go tomorrow and get one. But
yeah, it's good.
and I'm curious though, because obviously with the whole weight cutting thing, there's always so much discussion about what can be done long term. What do you believe the UFC should look at doing to kind of negate this problem? Because it's only going to get worse. You see, Cameron Smith that you mentioned the weekend fate on the scales. Nobody wants to see that. It's such a horrific viewing. And so, what do you think the UFC could do to kind of benefit weight cutting?
I think the thing is I don't know if the UFC can do anything. And in a way, part of me, I'm only loosely saying this because I'm chatting to you now. I would have to think about it. But part of me thinks, is it even the UFC's problem? At the end of the day, they put out the weights and it's down to what people want to do. I personally, would prefer the weight cuts. Sorry, the weigh-ins are on the day because it doesn't take a genius to understand that if you cut weight on the day of the fight, you will not benefit anything. But I imagine that there would still be people that would try and push it and do that. But for me, that would take away the problem. If we say, right, guys, you're weighing in 4 hours before you fight or 5 hours before you fight, to me, that would kind of be like, okay, who's going to cut weight? If you did that, it'd be insanity. You know that you wouldn't get an advantage. To me, that's the only way that I think it could work. But I do see that obviously it would still be dangerous if people were just, not understanding and then they're still cutting weight and whatnot. So yeah, the only other option would be that you do the weigh-ins the day before and then you say that you can't go over a certain weight the next day. But I mean, that would just, I imagine the UFC would just be thinking like, that's just too much for us. Why are we going to go to that length? If people don't want to look after themselves, that's kind of on them. But yeah, I personally think that the only sort of way of really doing it is just by doing the weigh-ins like 5 hours before the event starts.
And as previously mentioned, the UFC is back. We had a bit of I think we had a 6 week break. We're back to our regular scheduled programming, and there's a big card coming up in March. UFC London. It almost feels like UFC London. Nathaniel Wood's going to be on that card. GB top team, you have to be on there. Is that a card that you're looking to get on?
100%. Every time I see the London cards, I'm like, yep, count me in. I've had no official contract come through yet. I mean, there's rumors of a fight. I've put my name in the hat and said yes to everything, and now it's just waiting on the the call up or the contract to come over. So I've started fight camp, but I have had nothing officially signed, and until something's officially signed, it's not a done deal.
Well, of course, we know how much things can chop and change in this sport. It's a crazy space. But I wanted to ask about, has it been frustrating for you getting matched at times? Because it felt like every single time, like you come up big when you think, okay, Nathaniel's got to be in for a fight for the rankings next, and they'll give you some unranked guy. So how frustrating has that been for you? Because you've been calling for a ranked guy and you deserved a ranked opponent for a long time now, but it just hasn't seemed to come your way. So how frustrating has that been, if at all?
It is, to be honest, I'm like, what have I done wrong? Do you know what I mean? Like, because I am probably the easiest person to deal with in this fight industry. I'm humble. I don't, I shake everyone's hand that I see in the UFC. I've never pissed anyone off in the UFC. But I sometimes think, fucking hell, who have I pissed off? Because I don't know what I've got to do to get a match. I don't know if it's because maybe that I don't talk enough kind of trash, and I'm not like, this kind of guy with words and this performer. But even my fights, I'm like, they're all entertaining. I've never been in a boring fight. So, yeah, I don't know if it's because I'm English and people are just like, man, you're too nice. Like the way you talk, I don't know. I have no idea. But I'm like, mate, every fight I've been in is a barn burner. At featherweight now, I've only lost once, and it was a controversial loss. I'm like, come on, man, that we really classing that as a loss. Um, I don't know. Maybe it's just because I'm not getting finishes. To me, to put a 3 round performance on domination shows skill. To go in there, throw absolute bombs, and get a lucky shot, that doesn't really show skill. So I don't know if that's why, but yeah, that's the only thing that I can think. Maybe it's because I haven't got the finishes, but man, do you know what I mean? This is what it is.
And what do you make of the current state of the featherweight division right now? Because obviously we've got title, we've got Diego Lopez taking on Volkanovski again. I know that fight's a little bit controversial. I don't really understand it. I don't
Yeah.
think Lopez has warranted a rematch, but that's here or there. So obviously it's got nothing to do with me. But I just wanted what your thoughts on the state of the featherweight division right now? Because I feel like from bantamweight to lightweight, that's the most skill you'll see in the UFC. I feel like that like
Yeah.
they're all the shark tanks everywhere. Each one of those weight classes so stacked. So what do you make of the state of your division right now?
It's stacked. It is very stacked. I do think that now Ilya Topuria moved up a weight. I think at featherweight it's going to get bounced around a little bit. I don't think Volkanovski's going to be in the game that much longer. I do think that maybe, to be honest, I put Diego Lopez to win on the last one, and how wrong was I? So I don't really want to bet against Volkanovski now, but I'm thinking, if maybe Diego Lopez beats him, gets the belt, then I think maybe someone like Mosva's going to get the belt. And I think it's just going to be passed around a little bit for the time being until obviously I get there, and then I'm going to keep it for a few years.
And I'm hearing rumors, obviously, for the UFC main event for London. I'm hearing rumors, obviously nothing signed, but I'm hearing about Movzar versus Lerone for almost a number one contender fight. To me, that makes a lot of sense. And I'm curious, how would you think that fight would go? Because I know you've had your back and forth with Lerone in the past, but I know in reality you respect each other's competitors. You both recognize how good you both are. And so, what do you make of that potential matchup?
um, it definitely would be for the number one spot. I don't really know how I think the fight would go. I think Mosva would just take him down and just be lay and pray for 5 fives. I think, I don't personally think it would be a exciting fight. I do think Mosva's going to be very negative, and I think would just kind of play the smart game. And the same thing, if I'm in Mosva's corner, I'd be like, mate, take him down, hold him down, that kind of thing. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it's officially confirmed or anything like that, but um, yeah, it's a tough fight. I think that my head would go with Mosva, but believe it or not, I would actually want Lerone to win it.
And I want to kind of, change, divert a little bit. I want to ask you about, your coach, Brad Pickett, is a true pioneer of UK MMA. And he's someone who's been in your corner since the very beginning. How influential has he been on your career? And do you almost feel like you're carrying the torch that he left behind?
Brad's been everything, He was that extra weapon in my arsenal that I was missing until I met him. Obviously, when I met him, he was, I think, fifth in the world at the weight class that I was fighting at. I mean, what better guy can you get training with? And then obviously once he retired, he kind of took more of a coach role. And I just think he's great. We get on so well. He's not just my coach, he's family. He really is. So whether it's asking him questions just in general about life or whether it's anything to do with training, he lets me pick his brains. That's for sure.
And you're someone who you kind of get the whole social media side of fighting. You promote yourself quite well, I would say, because I think in the modern day you need to also be a personality because you're selling yourself. You are a brand. Nathaniel Wood is a brand, and I think you
Yeah.
do a really good job at recognizing that. I know you do a lot of work with Will Casuals, who's a social media guru. It seems like he's killing the game. And so was that a conscious decision from yourself to kind of recognize and think, okay, I need to start promoting myself and use social media to my advantage?
To be honest, mate, do you know what it is? I've got so many spare hours in the day. If I don't do something productive, I just lose my marbles. So, yeah, just kind of focusing a little bit on content and just trying to be more than just a fighter, if that makes sense, because I'm not an idiot. This career is not a long career. At the moment, I earn great money. I'm able to buy luxuries in life and whatever, but I know that at any moment this sport can end. I know that injuries are very prone in the sport, and I don't intend on staying in the sport until I'm old and getting beat up for a living. Like I don't want my daughters to see dad become a punch bag. Obviously getting punched is part of the process, but everyone knows when your time's up, when your career's up, and that's when I want to be able to just say, do you know what, I'm going elsewhere. And obviously, I know that the bigger you build your brand, the bigger it's going to help in life, in business, with everything. So, I don't want to be back on a building site. What I'd rather do is build my brand to the point where I can, pursue other things. And I think if you can build your brand, then no matter what you do in life, you're able to, have some form of success if you can bring eyes to it.
And it's no surprise to anyone that GB top team is one of the best gyms in the country. And I wanted to ask, who are some maybe unknown like younger guys, some amateur guys you've got coming up who you think we should all be paying attention to, say in the next 5 years?
We got a lad called Kadeem Perkins, who's I think 4-0 now. He's on Cage Warriors at the moment. We've got a lad called Connor Patterson, who's very talented, just starting out in the pro ranks. We've got loads of people, man. Honestly, I could sit here all day. But yeah, we've got a few. I think they're the two that I would say, and you probably have already heard of him, but Wesley Meyer, I think he could be in the UFC now and compete against the best in the world. Unfortunately, the start of his career, he had a few silly losses. I don't think he was looked after very well, and he just needs to work on his record a little bit, get some wins up. But trust me, that kid's talented. So yeah, I think you'll see him in the UFC very soon if we can get the opportunity.
Well, I think Wesley's got a massive opportunity coming up. Obviously, fighting Ollie Sawa for the title, and you've obviously got Nick Bagley
Yeah,
versus Solomon Simon. They are major fights. And obviously,
100%.
do you think with a win for both those guys, do you think that could almost be their chance to get into the UFC?
I think the thing with the UFC now is because they've introduced the Dana White Contender Series. It's always a little bit like, Dana White Contender Series, or do you just wait, kind of thing. So I think that the boys, if they win the belts, when they win the belts, that what they should do is not go down the Dana White Contender Series route. And I think that they should just stay, become Cage Warriors champion, defend the belt, and wait until, the UFC call and give them that route straight in. Um, that's just my opinion, but I am not a manager. So I do not know what the best route for them would be. But yeah, that's what I would do. I would get the Cage Warriors belt, enjoy being world champion. Obviously, you're not going to be on crazy money, but you're not going to be on crazy money when you go into the UFC anyway. So just live up that kind of world champion status and use that to build your brand again. Get some cool pictures, go and get some cool sponsors, and then, wait until the UFC call and make them want you kind of thing, instead of just, I don't know, going on Dana White Contender Series and just kind of hoping for the best. I think just go and dominate Cage Warriors until the UFC come calling.
And my final question is, what does a successful year for Nathaniel Wood look like? Where do you want to be at the end of 2026 going into 2027?
Obviously, remain undefeated for this year. I haven't lost since 2023 now. So, I don't want to take any more losses. I don't want to take any damage. I want to be as healthy as I can. And if I'm honest, mate, I say on interviews and stuff about the UFC belt, really, bro, that doesn't mean anything to me anymore. I'm more interested in being the best dad that I can be. I've got two beautiful girls, so I know it sounds cheesy and everyone's probably like, oh, whatever, but yeah, I mean, there's more to life than fighting. So my focus is my girls. I want them to just have a good, happy, healthy life, and I want them to see dad healthy and happy. So yeah, that's my goals, man. Just be a good dad and try and remain undefeated this year.
I think that's a beautiful way to put it, mate. I think that's a perfect way to end it and putting out a good message because I agree wholeheartedly. Obviously, I'm not a fighter, but family is the most important thing no matter what career, and there is nothing more important than coming home to your family and just enjoying your life. And that is the main of life, in my opinion. And on that note, Nathaniel, I just want to thank you for your time. It's been a real pleasure speaking to you. Fingers crossed we get a fight for London, and I'll see you on the March 21st.
Thank you for having me, mate. And yeah, fingers crossed over here, fingers and toes crossed. So yeah, hopefully see you March 21st.